those moments where you're faced with that like crippling adversity, and what's the mindset it took to overcome that, where so many other people would just give up, or just sort of peter out, or whatever, however you want to say it. But some people will just look that challenge in the face and say, "Fuck you, world. I know what you're doing here. It ain't gonna work. There's not a damn chance it's gonna work because I am going to do what I want to do." And so every week, Neen and I, we talk about who's someone great we want to have a conversation with, and your name came up, as someone that we both know
for sure,
and especially because of the fact that like we know each other, but not like super super well.
Yeah.
So to actually get to know you a little bit more and to hear about some of those things. So that's kind of the idea. So
I love it.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I love it too. This is cool. I look up to you guys.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Same here, man.
It's gonna be fun. Y'all are dope people.
Thank you. So you hit 1 million.
Yeah, more than that.
Wow.
And blown away.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Are we in this? Are we in it?
Online?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are we going yet?
Not a damn chance. Not a damn chance.
I'm so incredibly grateful for y'all because I hit you up that we had this fundraiser, our first ever fundraising event in person.
Okay.
And, we're trying to do a lot of bigger things now. And to make it possible, like we need the fuel in the engine to make it happen. And anyways, I called Jack today, who was on site with us at the fundraiser, and just thanked him. So I'm going to go have sushi on Sunday.
Hell yeah.
No,
It's a surprise for Amy, my fiance.
Nice.
And I called Chris to thank him. And who did I just see on Kill Tony, by the way?
That was
Elazar.
one of our guys from 6th Street. Yeah.
Yeah, Elazar. But Tony was saying his name, Eleazar. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just came out on stage and did it beautifully. He was like, my name is Elazar.
That's so good.
But y'all got a lot of really great people around you. And I called Jack to thank him because, after the fundraiser, he had been there giving his time, his talent or skill and all that. And he still was moved or reached in his pocket and like gave us a donation, like everything in his wallet.
Damn.
And I was blown away. I'm like, no, man, you've given your time, you've given everything. He's like, please, like, I want to do this. I want to
Jack's a
contribute.
good dude. I just made him head chef of the new downtown Austin location.
That's awesome.
He's a and that's, I mean, when you promote someone or when you put someone in a position of power, most of the time people will do it based solely on skill set and what do they have to offer, productivity. And although he has a great skill set and he has a lot to offer productivity, he's a good dude, and I think that is something that will oftentimes get you further in your life and in your career than just being, 5% better than somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a standout, meaning we raised $292,757 that night. I was blown away because it was our first in-person event. And Not a Damn Chance Burger showed up, and Sushi by Scratch showed up, and y'all. Last night I was at a dinner party with some of my friends and some donors, and the first thing they brought up was the burger. And,
No way.
One of them had put a box of like one of the extra ones in their purse.
Oh, really?
And had to take it home because they're like, this is the best burger I've ever had in my life.
And our burgers actually travel. They surprisingly travel. I almost like them. I always tell them, I'm like, I like them 15 minutes after they've been sitting in the wrapper more than I like them fresh off the grill.
Well, we also took some and we had them the next day.
Oh,
and just popped them in the air fryer, and they were excellent.
I don't know about the next day. Next time, just hit me up and come grab a fresh one for the next day.
Next day was still excellent.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. And so it was just cool because of the night, like there were so many meaningful gifts given, but one of the most meaningful to me was Jack.
Yeah.
And just
that's rad.
how incredible of a dude you could just sense from his presence.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You've got quite the fucking story. You got quite the journey. I know you've done a ton of podcasts, and obviously people know who you are. But we'd love to talk to you really about like a lot of the, you know, along your journey and along your story, like, you know, how do you go, like, how does a guy end up like you? You know what I mean? Like, what does that childhood look like? What is that, you know, what is that, you know, what does that, you know, that teenage years look like? I mean, because like one of the things that I find the craziest, I want to say inspiring, but also the craziest thing about you is like the stories of like, so you go off, you get, was it malaria?
Yeah.
And then you suffer, and then you go back and you get malaria.
Do it again.
And then you suffer, and then you go back and you get malaria.
5 times.
And just, but like most people, it's like, it seems like to me, without ever talking to you, like, well, forget what I fucking think. What is the mindset there? So many people would give up.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it would be not a damn chance. I'm stopping this because Fight for the Forgotten was birthed out of really them changing my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in some senses, like, or in many ways, probably saving my life. I went through addiction, almost lost my life to it, not once, but twice.
Mm-hmm.
Attempted suicide twice, went to treatment twice. And I was fighting, and I wouldn't say I was like, you know, one of the top 5 guys, but I was a standout and I had a long runway of career because I started fighting professionally at 19.
Okay.
Youngest guy I ever fought was 28. Heavyweight's kind of an older man division. So I had longevity in my career ahead of me. But the addiction, like, basically stole my soul, or like, I don't know how to say it except for it almost killed me. And when I got to Africa and met the Pygmy people and saw their way of life, living in tribe and community, and them not just like welcoming me in, but like accepting me, adopting me in as family. Like, I guess I have to get there, like how'd that happen?
Yeah, how the fuck do you, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never been accepted by the Pygmies in Africa. Like, how do you even get the idea to go there?
Yeah. Let's see. I'll start a little bit back before that, because like my journey's been one from fighting against people to fighting for people. And I think the reason I feel deeply connected to that is because I grew up getting very heavily bullied. And when I say bullied, like, it wasn't just teased, it was like relentless, merciless, like torment. And I'd sit at the lunch table by myself, get pelted in the back of the head with food, or chocolate milk spitwads, or fist when kids would walk by.
Oh man.
But there was like 2 or 3 huge moments in front of the whole school. And after one of those big moments, which we can get into or not, it doesn't matter. But about a month after that, I found the UFC. And when I found, anyone remember the 1900s? Like VHS tapes? Like I bought those.
Yeah.
And when I picked those up, I just instantly thought, these guys don't get bullied.
Yeah.
Like, no way. And how do I become that? And
so did you end up like beating the shit out of these kids, or did you get beat up in front of the kids, like at the school?
I got beat up by them.
Wow.
One time in the locker room, they stole all I was like the last one to shower, because
Yeah.
I would be the one that got titty twisters or purple nurples until they really were purple or bleeding, right?
Oh, man.
And pink bellies. And so I showered last sometimes. Did that. Well, there was a girls' volleyball game going on, so they grabbed all my clothes, threw it under the bleachers, right? And the only towel left in there is like a little hand towel, right? Another one was I got invited to my middle school crush's birthday party, Jennifer, and it was an invitation, and on it was costume contest, winner gets a prize. And you're in Texas now, and we're in Texas together, but in Dallas Fort Worth culture, like some reason Dr. Pepper is a big thing in the culture, right?
Yeah. It's I think it's like from Waco or something, right?
Yeah. And then there's also Dublin, Texas, where they used to make Dublin Dr. Pepper, which was like a Mexican Coke, or like with the imperial cane sugar, but it only came from Dublin, Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So her dad worked there. And anyways, it was an invitation that said winner gets a prize. It was a Dr. Pepper gumball machine. And it was Dr. Pepper flavored gumball. So it sounds pretty cool at 13.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna win that thing.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to win more than that, probably her attention, or like
For sure.
Yeah.
acceptance, or she was my biggest crush I had, middle school, high school, elementary school, any of that. And so this was around the Super Bowl time, and I went to the grocery store. And do y'all remember any of those like displays around like football? Like there'll be a Dr. Pepper guy and a Heisman or a 3-point stance. And so I saw that, and I thought, oh, you know, if I had more foresight, maybe I would have gone as Thor, because they're talking about Avengers, you know, things like that. But she loved Transformers, and her favorite was Optimus Prime.
Okay.
And so people were talking about Batman or Superman or whatever Avenger. And I just was at the grocery store with my mom. I pointed to that and I go, that's the costume. If I could be Dr. Optimus Pepper, right? Like Optimus Prime, but Dr. Pepper themed. And my mom loved it, said Jennifer's going to love it. And I put a 24 pack on my head and 12 packs on my arm. And my mom with some duct tape outside Southwest Fort Worth. She's like, helping me with a chest plate, a shield, a sword. And we got in the car to go, and she's like, oh, Jennifer's going to love this.
Yeah.
So being bullied, though, my parents didn't know how bad it had gotten. But this was the moment where I could walk into that house, to that party, standing a little taller, with my shoulders back, thinking like, okay, we nailed this.
Yeah.
But when the door opened, I was met with, hit by flashes of light. As my eyes are adjusting, I'm hearing the sound of laughter. And then I see that nobody's dressed up. And Jennifer said, I can't believe you thought you were good enough to come to my party. Tyler, next to her, said, you're worthless. And Justin, my notorious bully from basically 3rd grade to 8th grade, said, you should just kill yourself. So at, 13 years old, you're more apt to believe the things people say about you. At least I was. And so I ran away from that party. I literally ended up behind a dumpster at a Dairy Queen, which ironically, Amy, my fiance, her daughter has her first boyfriend. Her first boyfriend's dad owns the car dealership right by that Dairy Queen. And so he knew all about it. And so anyways, I remember I ripped off that costume and threw it away in that dumpster, which a Dairy Queen dumpster's got like all this gook around it, right? It's like chili and French fries or Dairy Queen Blizzard stuff. And so I get sticky. I sit down. I'm hugging my legs, and I literally was just crying until basically they closed. And when the employee came out, this female, she was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, what's going on? Like, let's go inside and call your mom." So we did, and this is before kids had cell phones, and so I'm calling the house, leaving a voicemail. She finally finds that to find me, and that's the first time they knew how bad it had gotten. And they pulled me out of that school, sent me to a different school 67 miles away. So I went from Southwest Fort Worth to East Dallas for school.
Okay.
That was 67 miles. But the reason I went there was after I found those UFC VHS tapes, I asked my mom if I could do boxing. She said no. I couldn't find anywhere that did MMA for kids because that still doesn't exist. But at least like full contact. And so I've found wrestling.
Let us tell you about some damn good beef. Better Fed Beef, they ship 100% American beef raised on their family farms, straight to folks across the country. No middleman, no mystery, just pure, exceptional quality.
It's called certified Anya beef, and it's not your average steak. They breed beef bulls with dairy cows to create something really special, crossbred beef on dairy cattle. That makes the meat crazy tender, full of flavor, and super consistent every time.
They dry age every single cut because great beef deserves that extra time to be perfect.
Better Fed Beef prides themselves on a family-focused value chain. From their family farms to their family-owned artisanal butchering partners, they keep everything within inside the family.
They are proud of what they raise, and they don't take shortcuts, no fluff, no frills, just the best eating experience you can get.
So, I've actually had the pleasure of receiving a couple of these boxes to my house, and the beef is really, really good. It really is.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we need to get you some. We need to send some to Neen. But for those of you at home,
jealous here.
Yeah, you should get this too. Head to betterbeef.com and use promo code NADC to get 20% off your entire order. It's for the first order only. But listen, their slogan: "Real beef from real families."
Let's go.
And Bishop Lynch High School in Dallas, they had 2 Olympic gold medalists as the high school coaches. Not one other school in the nation had one, and I found one with 2. And so they made a big sacrifice for me to pursue at least an outlet, like something I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
Maybe you can relate with skating.
No, for sure. That's awesome, man. Because that story is that's insane.
Yeah, I didn't know.
You know what
I didn't
That's
know
like,
that. And I would looking at you today and knowing you today as the man you become. I tried to not cry when I listened to that fucking story. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And you know, before we glaze too far over it, because part of this idea of this podcast is to really hopefully show people at home how you can be successful, not just become a millionaire, not just become, famous, but how you can become successful as living as just a regular human. And there are a lot of kids now in the 90s and the 80s, we were built a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of kids today that would have killed themselves that afternoon. There are a lot of kids that would have done that. And, the obviously when you feel like the entire world is just laughing at you, and to how do you go from that moment to saying, I am going to go study wrestling and I am going to, I imagine I'm never going to have that happen again.
Yeah. Well, so not that this is a gun ownership thing. I'm in Texas and I've shot guns and everything else and gun hunting.
for sure.
But if my parents would have been gun owners, I wouldn't be here because I went home determined to. And I did put my head in a noose and it got around my neck and it wasn't strong enough and it scared me. So after that, whenever I went to this flea market, I don't know if it's still around, but it's called Trader's Village in Fort Arlington. It's like once a month, and it's this huge place where they sell junk, like stolen car parts,
All types of stuff.
They sell flying squirrels and iguanas and all sorts of weird stuff. But that's where I found the used VHS tapes of UFC, and it was missing UFC 1, but it had 2 through 11. I think I used all my allowance on that. So I grew up in the country and we had rats in our barn. I was actually going there to buy a pellet gun to shoot the rats.
To get the rats.
Yeah. And, but when I found that, it gave me, I don't know why, but it was what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
And I would say once I started studying it, like I love that the guys probably didn't get bullied, but then I fell in love with the human chess match of it. And I don't know if I've ever shared this story, but I hid the tapes under my bed. And when my dad finally found them, he wasn't thinking it was UFC. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it got any better. There's these sweaty guys.
It's like the Playboy inside of the skateboarding magazine cover.
Yeah.
Did he actually put it on the VHS and press play to see what it was?
Yes, I got caught with one of them. He didn't know I had a bunch more. But remember whenever you turn off a VHS, like the tape or the TV, the tape still moves inside of it, and the TV doesn't go actually black. It's kind of like gray and has a line across it. So I got caught one night watching it that way. And he told my mom, like, Terry, he's going to try to do this one day. And she's like, no, he's not. And in my head, I'm like, yes, I am. Like, not a damn chance I'm not going to do it.
Fuck yeah.
Right. And so I started with wrestling, but man, I was terrible. I sucked at first. I lost every match my first year and a half of wrestling. I think I had a year and 3 months. I finally won one match by 1 point, and I swear it's because we're heavyweights and we get sweaty. The guy slipped in some of my sweat, his sweat, our sweat, and I just held on for dear life. And I don't know what it was in me except for like I felt like it was my only way out, and I had to do it, and I wanted to do it.
Basically fight your way out.
Yeah, and I never fought those kids. I did see them after the Ultimate Fighter premiere. It was in Fort Worth, and I was at Buffalo Wild Wings there.
And you ran into some of those kids?
I ran into basically all the, not all of them, but probably the ringleaders of it. Like
Fortunately or unfortunately, when you study martial arts, you learn to discipline and to not go beat people up.
Yeah, so I was actually dating a ring girl at the time, and we went out to sushi after there was a place called Piranha Sushi back in the day. They had this Marry Me roll, which was basically like a strawberry on top of avocado with, I think, like shrimp tempura and some sort of tuna.
People say I'm crazy.
and I was like, let's go get one of those rolls. We went, and they were sitting down at a table, and they like motioned us over, and she saw them. and she brought me over to that table, and then I realized, oh shoot! Like,
Did she know who they were when she?
No, she had no clue.
She
She
just thought they were fans.
This was my first time telling the story in my adult life, was to her that night.
Wow.
And I'm 22 or 23, and
Like 10 years later.
Yeah, 10 years
basically.
later.
Yeah.
And the Ultimate Fighter just played that night, and they invite us to sit down at the table. And I'm still standing. She's like, oh yeah, we could sit down with your old friends from school.
And you're just like, nah.
And, yeah. And so one of them, Justin, said, if we would have known you could have kicked our ass, we would have never done that to you. So not really an apology.
Yeah.
And so I went to the bathroom, texted her, hey, we're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I kind of like snuck out. But it brought me back to that childhood moment. It's crazy. Like now I am fighting and at the highest level, and still you can have a moment where you're brought back to some of that maybe wounding.
Yeah.
And you like relive it.
Well, things like that the story you told, that's like a very traumatic situation. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just going to forget that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
Well, I tried to, right? For 10 years.
Yeah.
And then it was brought back. I told her, she was like, man, fuck those kids.
Yeah.
She probably told you should have gone
in there.
Well, she brought it to my attention. Like, I was like, well, he tried to apologize. She goes, that's not a fucking apology.
Yeah.
And so, but after that, I started to, two things. Like, I had this downward spiral into the addiction. I got kicked off. I'll say I was training with people like Rashad Evans and Shane Carwin and Brendan Schaub and Nate Marquardt. I was at Grudge Fight Team with Justin Gaethje and Rose Namajunas. And the addiction got so bad that I was training for a main event fight at the Hard Rock in Vegas, and which should be for a fighter kind of this dream come true moment, because even though this wasn't in the UFC, it's still like headlining a Vegas casino, right?
Yeah.
And 3 weeks before the fight, I walk into training in Denver, and everyone's looking at me different. And Coach T, Trevor Whitman, pulls me into his office, said, we just took a vote. It was 34-1. I was the only one that wanted to keep you. They voted you off the team. Like, sorry, you can't stay here, but please go get some help. You got to do something to get your life right. So I was able to hide I had an Oxycontin addiction, and I had a surgery on my right elbow. I broke it, dislocated it, tore the ulnar collateral ligament. Actually in wrestling, not MMA. And so before I ever started my MMA career, I was already an addict to Oxy.
Wow.
Had you been an addict in the past, or this was something that like you took Oxy and then you fell victim to the fact that it is incredibly addictive and it just became part of your life?
That's a good point, because it was 2005. So like way before we knew how dangerous it was.
Nobody knew that it was that.
Yeah. And I don't think they did, because I had 3 different doctors tell me it's the least addictive or it's non-addictive. But I was getting scripts of 90, 120 per month from 3 different doctors.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I had to wait 4 months. Aetna denied my surgery, even though I had a severed ulnar collateral ligament, and it was broken, dislocated, all that. They wanted me to go to one doctor that was like a knee and ankle surgeon
For your elbow.
for my elbow. That he did a couple of elbow surgeries a year, but I was living at the Olympic Training Center.
Yeah, you're an athlete.
Yeah, and they're like, he's like, you need to go to a world-class elbow guy.
Yeah.
So it took me 4 months to go through that process, and all I could
Insurance.
have was Oxy, basically the whole time.
Oh man.
So before the surgery, I was addicted.
So you're kind of like forced into the addiction in a way
I
because of insurance.
I would say a few years ago, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
And then it didn't help. It was the main contributing factor. But now that I've been in recovery and learned a lot more, like I have to take complete ownership of
For
it.
sure. For
And
sure.
that's the most freeing thing for me. And now I see it not as like the biggest curse or biggest burden of my life, but like really, truly like the biggest opportunity
Yeah.
to like live a different life.
Turn a negative into positive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's been a mindset shift and
for sure.
perspective shift that's really helped.
I was saying too, even with like the Bullies, it's like a lot of times they have kind of stuff going on, you know, in their lives. So they like basically, you know, treat people poorly, you know, and that's a good mind state to have, is to understand that, you know, someone making fun out of you or like messing with you, it's like they probably have a lot of dark shit going on in their life, and they're like crying out, for help, and that's the only way they can get attention, or
It's definitely helpful to, to understand that most everyone, I think almost without exception, is doing the best they can.
Yeah.
They're not typically, they're doing it to be mean, but that is the best thing that they can do. Whether or not those kids, their parents were beating them or whatever. But it's always helpful. It doesn't fucking fix, the problem. It doesn't make it go away. But it is, it's definitely helpful. It takes it back to that sort of complete ownership,
go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, yeah, for me, I've learned that hurt people, right?
Yeah.
But now going through the journey, it wouldn't change anything. Like I needed that moment.
Because it made you who you are.
It made me who I am. It literally like fortified me, or I discovered like the fortitude within my soul. But it also connected me in a deeper, more meaningful way to what I think is part of my purpose here, which is fight for the forgotten, helping some people in some ways that have been bullied in a way I actually can't imagine, right? Like I can relate because of that moment, but like to have this systematic kind of oppression, not even thought to be truly human beings, the stuff that they've gone through, it's like, how can we actually make a meaningful difference here for them?
I love that you're able to look at, and this is something that I've actually noticed with almost everyone that we've spoken with, is that the thing that as an outsider, you hear a story and you go, that's got to be the worst thing that ever happened to you. The common theme response has been, I'm so grateful that did happen to me. We had a gentleman who went to jail, was in jail for, and like he's like, that's when I learned, I got my voice and I learned how to become a man. And he was grateful for the time that he was in jail. And I'm not going to spend
freedom behind bars. It's wild.
I'm not going to take up time because you have so much to talk about, but like there are so many things in my career and in my life that were like horrible. People embezzling, people stealing, people just getting fucked over. But I would never change that because it made me who I am today. And so, still though, it is very inspiring. Even though I share that with you, it's inspiring to hear you say that you're grateful for that, for those things to be, so that you can become who you become.
Yeah, it's true. Like, what's that quote? Right? It's not really what you accomplish; it's who you're becoming during it. And for me, like I think so. I've heard the quote, an athlete dies twice. I don't know if you've ever heard that or something similar to that. An athlete dies twice. So my transition out from MMA, I left it for 5 years at a young age, 23 years old.
Okay.
And when I left, I had such a, like, it almost didn't matter anymore because, oh my gosh, this thing actually matters. But then I came back to fighting and fought for 4 or 5 years. And I was able to pair it, like match it together, like, oh, this is my way to raise awareness, to raise funds, to tell their story, and to make a deeper impact if I could do it together.
Okay.
So I did that for a while. But then whenever kind of injuries forced me out, I wasn't ready. And so it was kind of like that life of a fighter kind of resurrected it for a season after a long layoff. But then I was almost being forced out through injuries. That it was almost like I had to grieve that loss of that life and then try to figure out, okay, well, what do I do from here?
What's going to be next?
Yeah, how could I ever do the Fight for the Forgotten and fundraise and tell their story if I'm not an active fighter that is doing it? Fight, win, grab the microphone, tell their story.
Yeah.
We're going on these shows and things.
So the trip to Africa that essentially set you on this path happened between the time that you were let go from the team and when you came back?
Yeah, I guess I didn't tell that. So I take the fight, regardless of being kicked off the fight team. I was under contract.
So you just take it solo? Like you don't
have...
have...
I didn't have... I mean, I found cornermen.
Wow.
But my team wasn't there, family wasn't there, friends weren't there. And when I was getting my hand raised, it was the most joyless, get me out of here experience of my entire life in front of the big lights, felt all alone. Basically, like obviously internally I was in darkness. But I
wonder if
left
that's
there.
the universe telling you that like you are the master of you. Like it's not that you need, and maybe because of like the bullying and stuff and feeling like other people's opinions mattered, that like you got your fucking hand raised. It wasn't your team who did it for you. It wasn't, your family support. It was, you were there by yourself.
Yeah, well, yes, I didn't have that good perspective.
I wouldn't have had it at that age. I wouldn't have had the
I had a
perspective at that
terrible
age.
perspective. And I went on a 2-week bender where when I came out of it, I had, I think it was 37 voicemails or something crazy. They were like, "Are you alive?
Wow.
Where are you? Please call us back." But one of them was my best friend, and he said, "I can't believe you missed my wedding.
Oh, shit.
Can't believe my best man didn't show up." And that was a low point. That was hitting rock bottom to where I took a one-way trip to Mexico with no intention to come back. Attempted suicide. That was a wild moment. And I'm very lucky. Like I know that I'm living in the bonus rounds of my life because I shouldn't be here. And it was 80 oxy basically, and
Holy shit.
which is almost 3 prescription bottles. And
Luckily you have the body
I'm a
mass that you
big
do.
boy. I'm a big boy, but still, it was like a handful of Xanax, a whole handle of tequila. Like I was trying to go out, and the next morning I woke up at 6 a.m. to this gasp of a.
You were just left in the room.
Yeah.
You were in the room by yourself.
Well,
you didn't even go to the hospital.
No,
Wow.
I was in Mexico at this beachfront place, and my feet are on the ground when I fell back, and so
Yeah.
I'm like sitting on the edge of the bed, right? So when I woke up the next morning, my ankles or feet, like they've never really done this, but they like swelled up like crazy. My heart felt like it was going to explode. It was like going to pound out of my chest. My head was hurting, bodies were in chills.
Holy shit.
I stumble out. I gather my thoughts, but my thoughts were really like, how the hell am I alive? Holy shit, I'm
Jesus,
still
dude.
here.
Wow, that's a miracle. dude.
Yeah, stumbled out
Holy
onto the
fuck.
beach. And I felt compelled to get in the water for some reason. Like feet in the sand, like in the water. And I guess I could say, like in that moment, I kind of experienced like, I don't know, the healing power of waters, of water. And I wouldn't know it'd become such a central theme of my life, like water after that. But when I got into the ocean, it was just wave after wave, like shame after shame, where I have my eyes closed. It's like 6 a.m. It's before the sun came up. Maybe it's like 6:20, 6:15. My eyes are closed, and like tears are streaming down through the closed eyes. And it's like a wave would hit, and I would think, what is this doing to my mother? Another wave would hit, and I'd think, like, what is this? How selfish was that? Like somebody would have found my body and experienced that trauma. Like just someone trying to do their job, right? And so I literally had that thought there. And then some sort of like whisper in my soul, like some sort of intuition or thought was open your eyes. Well, before that, it was kind of like be grateful for that breath in your lungs, which seemed really strange. Like what?
That's not your normal
me.
internal
No,
monologue.
no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Not at this time, not for sure.
Wild.
It has been pretty much every day since this, and for the most part. And whenever I opened my eyes to this thought, open your eyes, man, the sun, it was like right in that moment, the sun appeared on the horizon. And I watched the most epic, majestic, and I don't use that word for really anything, maybe this one moment in my hair. It was like a masterpiece being painted right before my eyes.
Wild.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't think I'd see one of these again. And as it inched up higher and higher, I just remember thinking like, man, I've never truly been grateful for one of these sunrises or sunset. Like maybe I've snapped a picture. I never really thought about how much of like,
You really took it in.
yeah. And the next part wasn't easy. I'd have to get clean and sober. I'd have to ask for help. I'd have to
Were you making those decisions in the water at that moment?
It was kind of dawning on me like what everything I had to go back to. the shitstorm,
What
the
you had
mess
to
that
do.
I made.
Yeah.
But in that moment it felt like an hour, but it was probably really only 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I just sat there and watched it and kind of cried and thought, whoa, like I'd never seen that. And maybe it was drug induced, but I'd never seen that many color. I'm partially colorblind, like red, green colorblind. And, but this day I was seeing reds and oranges and greens and yellows and all the different stuff. And, it was just, it's hard to put words to like how profound of a moment it was to like, holy shit, I'm still here. Now what? And, and I'll be honest, like I went to treatment and it worked for a little bit and then it didn't. And I relapsed and I went back to treatment and I had to figure that thing out and I fumbled my way through it. And, I tried to get sober alone. And at least from my experience and the people I know, like it's hard to get sober alone. Like you need some sort of tribe and people that are further ahead and
like
people with different perspective.
Some backing, like someone to do it with almost, like
it's a fellowship.
Like a training partner.
Yeah, like training partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Someone to feed off of, right?
Right. And you can hear it from, because I had gone to doctors and psychiatrists and people with like, well, Dr. Amen, I love this man. And he's been my doctor for like a decade. And he's like a 13-time New York Times bestselling author. He's incredible. And he's told me powerful, profound things like basically what I was experiencing was PTG, from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth, like some really great stuff I can hang on to. I'd go back to him after like a relapse and he'd be like, you feel like you're in the worst place you've ever been, but I know you when you got here and like, you're actually like, what is that? Progress isn't linear. You think it is.
3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah. So he'd tell me things that I really needed to hear. But then at the same time, like hearing it from a dude that's been as sick as me or like unwell in addiction, and he's gotten better, like some reason it just lands, it hits different whenever he tells me what he did to get sober. And so that journey took me really to Africa. A father of a fan of mine reached out and I'm going through it, but I'm sobered up and I'm white knuckling it.
Yeah.
Oxy withdrawals, brutal. Like when you're eating, like food's falling off your fork. You feel like your mattress is shaking off the bed frame. The sweats, the chills, the shits, all the stuff is not fun. But this father reached out and I've gotten through that withdrawal process and he asked if I'd visit his son, which was a great honor, but also I didn't know what to do. I'm 23 years old. I'm a fighter and now I'm going to visit a kid in the hospital. Like, what do you say? It was kind of like this moment of like, oh shit, like, what do I say?
Yeah.
When I got there, I found out his name was Bryce. He was 12 years old. He had a traumatic brain injury. And this is where I'd say, let me at least preface it with saying, this is where I discovered the most remarkable thing, at least for me, is like purpose through service. But it was really hard because seeing a kid with a traumatic brain injury, like I took a picture with his older brother, his mom, his dad. But when they wanted me to take a picture with him, like he didn't know I was in the room. All he could do was moan in agony. They didn't know if he would walk again, talk again, eat on his own again. And so it was awkward. It was hard. Like borderline felt wrong, if that makes sense. Is this the state you want me to take a picture with him in? And some chaplain walked me in there and he met me when I walked out. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he could tell I was fighting back tears. And I go, not great. And he goes, "You got any questions?" And I was like, "Yeah, what was that about?" Like, I loved seeing his family and stuff, but did my being here even matter? Like, is he going to remember it? Like, and which is a selfish thing to say, right? And which was perfect what this guy's response was, because he said, "Hey, stop that. Stop being selfish." And I needed to hear that at that moment. Now I'm grateful for it. In the moment, I was kind of like, "Whoa, hey, buddy."
So was this kid a big fan of yours before he got hurt? Or?
He watched me on The Ultimate Fighter.
Got it. And then he got hurt, and then his family thought maybe
I'd come visit, and maybe they thought he'd be further along or it'd help him come. I don't know. But so he said, "Stop being selfish." And then he goes, "Hey, it might not feel like it, but you did a good thing today.
That's right.
You should do it more." some reason those words, you should do it more. Like it landed, and I was like, whoa. And a nurse at the nurse's station heard him talking to me. She handed me a pamphlet for like being a volunteer and said the oncology unit needed some help. And it'd be cool if I went through night training, became an official volunteer. And so basically this is where I found, one, these kids are fighting a real fight. They're bigger, tougher, stronger fighters than I could ever pretend to be. And so I did. I went through the night school. I started volunteering 1 day a week, 3 days a week, 5 days a week. Sometimes it was 7 days a week. I went and was Santa Claus for the kids.
Sick,
the team that kicked me off now said, hey, could you set up a team visit for us? And brought them all in, and they're bringing UFC championship belts, and kids are one of the kids was literally playing as one of the fighters walking into the room on the UFC Xbox game or whatever it was.
Sick.
And PlayStation, I think. And so it was cool. I started to discover purpose through service that way. Then it was the Denver Rescue Mission with the homeless. And then it was, I mean, I'm not telling everyone they need to volunteer, but for me, that was a way of getting outside of myself.
Yeah.
And discovering some purpose and putting some, if I want to be anything in life, it's probably just a dude that puts love and compassion in action. I mean, that sounds kind of cliche or whatever, but if I can do that, I'm happy. And so after that, the group I'd been volunteering with invited me to a talk.
Okay.
It was a speaker doing some great humanitarian work and around the world. And they're like, come hear this dude talk. And it was just like 20, 30 of us. I went. I forgot to say the one part that really got me hesitant on going. So I had been offered, now I'm 11 months sober in a new life, but I'm a little directionless. Like I'm having a great time, but it's kind of like shotgunned where it's like anywhere, everywhere, like, yes. But I found out volunteering doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was broke. And my fight agent called with a fight at the Saitama Super Arena in Tokyo, Japan, in front of 100,000 people live. It would solve my money problems. He's throwing me a golden rope. It's an opponent kind of on a silver platter, meaning it was the least dangerous. All fights are dangerous, but this is the least dangerous fight I can take. And so I said, like, yeah, I want to take the fight. But when the contract came, for some reason I felt like I couldn't really sign it yet. And it felt really weird. I'm a fighter. This is what I do. This is who I am. And this is how I pay the bills. But I talked to a friend and he said, man, have you like meditated on it? Like win or lose, you can have an excuse to use. That was true. And then he goes like, just throw it out to the universe. Pray about it. And I felt like that sounded weird. I was like, well, cloud's going to open and like God's voice, like just, you know, he goes, no. And he goes, well, I don't know, maybe like if you don't try, you don't know. And it felt weird, but I went back and I just said a prayer, like, God, universe, whatever you want to think. I was just like, what do I do with my life? What do I do with my life? Like, what do I do with my life? And the craziest thing happened. It sounds wild. I've done ayahuasca and psilocybin and bufo and DMT and ketamine, doctor guided therapy, all that stuff. This was the most vivid visual vision I've ever had. It just dropped around me. Closest thing I can compare it to is the Sphere in Vegas with the screens all around you. Like all of a sudden it was just all around me. And I was walking down this footpath. I heard drumming. I kept walking. I heard singing. I kept walking. I come into this clearing and there's these dome huts that are just made of leaves, like twigs and leaves. And I acknowledge this guy and he acknowledges me. We don't talk, but I could count. Basically, I could see that he was starving or like hungry. He was emaciated and like a skeleton with skin on almost. And he was coughing. And I just knew he was hungry, thirsty, poor, sick, oppressed, enslaved, called someone else master and felt forgotten. And so I came out of that vision. It just dissipated, just disappeared. And I had this yellow legal pad and I wrote down at the top of it, forgotten. And I underlined it, hungry, thirsty, poverty, sick, oppressed, like, and I felt nuts. Honestly, I felt like the reason I brought up psychedelics was either that was a psychedelic reactivation, right?
Yeah.
Or B, scarier, I am That was a psychotic episode.
Were you so?
I should be committed.
How did this happen? Were you weren't sitting at breakfast eating?
No, I was alone, and
were
I
you
was
doing like were you in meditation when this happened? Or
yes, I was. I was thinking about the fight. I had gotten a text from my manager. Have you signed the contract yet? Like or the contract was being sent, I think. And so I started by basically praying, meditating on fight yes or no, which sounds weird. Like I'd never done anything like that in my life, but it was fight yes or no. And it basically felt in my spirit, intuition, mind, like it was kind of a no. And I was frustrated. So then I literally just kind of, why not? Like the questions, thinking this is what I do. This is my dream fight. This is whatever. I'm frustrated. And then I just leaned into, okay, what do I do with my life? And it'll sound a little woo-woo or wonky or out there, but I ended up like, I'm saying that, and I ended up on my forearms and knees saying it. And then I came out of it like that, still on my hands and knees.
Were your eyes closed when you saw this?
Yeah. But it wasn't like a daydream, and it wasn't like I wasn't asleep.
But I wonder. So I think that I think that drugs can sometimes open gateways or portals in your mind that otherwise, like synapses that otherwise, maybe they lie dormant, right? And perhaps with your experiences with psychedelics prior, the door was left somewhat ajar for you to actually have the muscle to see something or communicate with something that you were able to call upon in such a I want to say stressful time or environment, but like a time where you really were asking somebody. And the only person there, whether it's God, the universe or not, the only person there is inside of your brain wiring. And
interestingly enough, I'll go here because I've shared this story a little bit more lately where it's just like, I kind of, I would like to know the answer because I kind of don't know. Maybe it was something in my brain. Other people said, maybe you've been a pygmy in a past life and decided, who do you need to come back to as? And it's like this Viking dude. Others have said, man, maybe it's just a simple answered prayer. Different stuff. Psychedelics were definitely in play, but I was 11 months sober, so they weren't in play in that time frame. But the craziest thing, I'll lead to this part of the story because I got invited to hear this dude share a story. I go, listen, his name's Caleb. And he starts telling these wild stories of places he's lived and work he's done. And he lived in Vanuatu, which I think that's how you say it. And it's, there's the Vanuatu tribe that invented bungee jumping. It's called land diving. You guys got to look this up sometime. It's the craziest, gnarliest pictures, especially these guys are not skydiving, bungee jumping, but they have to kiss their head on the ground.
There we go.
Let's pull one of those up because it's insane. Do the one, if you go to the images, it's they just jump off and they have to kiss their head on the dirt.
Wow.
If they don't, I think it's a rite of passage. If they don't, maybe they're a coward and they're cursed. I think they're hitting their head on their yam harvest, so soft dirt. But if you basically you break your neck, you are basically cursed anyways. But if you just kiss your forehead or the top of your head on
the
the
little
ground,
tap.
isn't that insane?
My goodness. Yeah, and they don't have it like measured out.
And it's not like it's not a bungee. It's a fucking vine.
It's vines around their ankles, right? Yeah. So he had been there with them. See that?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? It's one of the craziest
The
things.
whiplash.
I know.
Gnarly.
You have to be in shape. You have to be in shape to not die.
Yeah, and to even build that platform. It's
I know.
just sticks.
I'm not sure I have the
branches.
balls to climb up that platform, let alone jump off of it.
Right.
That thing looks rickety.
That's
I mean,
insane.
it's literally insane. So he had hung out with these guys, right?
Okay.
Like lived with them for a bit. I forget if it was a few months or a year.
Wow.
But I mean, it's wild. So then he had lived with the Maasai tribe. I mean, that dude just got a concussion.
Yeah, that's insane.
maybe not. But then he had lived with the Maasai tribe that had spears that would either hunt lions or defend their livestock against lions. And something in me was like, okay, if you can tell anyone this crazy vision, it's him. Because for 3 days, it basically said, I'm not telling anyone. And then I maybe thought, well, if I tell anyone, or maybe I'll just blame it on psychedelics, right? Or point to that. And so there was a line for him. And I'm like, I'm not going to wait in the line. I'm not going to bother them. So I go in and get my buddies. Anyways, they start up the van. And I like say, wait, time out. Like, I'm never going to see this dude again. I rip out a piece of paper, write down my phone number, try to hand that to him. Go back in. He's done with the line. I try to hand him my phone number. He goes, what's this? You going to give me your number? And I'm like, well, I got something to share with you sometime. You know, get home to your family, whatever. And I don't want to keep you too long. And he goes, no, man, I'm right in front of you. If you got something to share, like, tell me.
Yeah.
And so I start telling him this vision. And he says, well, the first thing out of his mouth, first he cracked a smile, and then the first thing out of his mouth was, I know who they are. And I said, what? And he said, they're the pygmy people.
Yeah.
And I said, who? And he said, they're in the Congo Basin rainforest. I'm like, where? And he's like, it's across 8 or 9 African nations. It's the second largest rainforest in the world. If there's anyone that's forgotten, it's them. And I said, how do you know this? He goes, because I'm going in 3 weeks. Whoa. You're coming with me.
Whoa. And this was 3 days after the vision?
3 days after the vision.
I wonder, because you said people have thought it's psychedelics, it's this, it's that. I really believe in fate. I really believe in fate. I believe that it is like, I believe in the idea of destiny, but I believe that it's not guaranteed. I believe that there's like, you have, just like when you play a video game, there is a start and there is a finish, but you can go off the path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can get back on the path. You can give up on the game, right? You can get a game over. But like, if you, like, the world will sort of, if you look for it and you accept it, the world will kind of let you see where you're supposed to go next. And I do wonder if you were always supposed to go there, and because you had pumped your body full of so many, you know, psychedelics and chemicals and et cetera, that you had given yourself the key to open the door to see the path to get to the place that you were always going to go to.
Here is what I would say to you. We started, y'all talked about malaria, right? If I wouldn't have had this vision, because it continues here where Caleb tells me get in his truck and we go see his family, and his wife, Jess, as we walk in, he's telling me the craziest stuff. Like, his team of 3 people he was taking all canceled their trips like days ago. The rebels took over in a 1 million person city. They were decapitating people in the streets. They, like, some crazy stuff. The United Nations confirmed like 34 counts of cannibalism against the pygmy people, that they were victims to it. And I'm like, yo, dude, like, why are you planning on going? and you're going alone and type stuff. He goes, no, you're coming with me. And so we get to the house, the door opens. He said that the guys that canceled, they're all husbands, they are fathers, their family said, don't go. The U.S. State Department said, no one go for any reason, like if you're American. And so when we walk in, Jess is pregnant. Caleb's wife, Jess. Trace is running around, and he's like a toddler. And I'm like, I can't tell her I had this vision and now we're going. Like, it sounds crazy. But he kind of pulls it out of me, and I was shy and sheepish with it, but her response blew me away. She looked at Caleb and said, you got to take this guy. And I'm like, can't we postpone it? Can't we wait till next year? Like, maybe the State Department could say people can go. And
let me go train a little bit first. Get back in shape.
Yeah, exactly. And so they kind of became, I don't know, life coaches or mentors or sage wisdom, saying, if you don't go, you'll never know. You always wonder what could have, should have, would have happened. In the next 3 weeks, another guy comes with us named Colin. Me, Caleb, Colin go over there. We get to Uganda. We have to find a pilot in Uganda willing to fly us into Congo. And I think we got 1 or 2 no's. They pointed us in the direction of one person that said they'll just buzz in and buzz out. And we land on a grass runway. As we're circling it, there's no place to refuel at this random airstrip that's like grass and dirt. So he's like, if I can't land, I got to turn back around, because we're circling the runway and people run out of their huts with like machetes. And oh shit moment, but we were just illiterate or not. I didn't have the context enough to know, oh, they were late on mowing the grass basically. So they're just using the machetes to like clear the runway more. We were able to make the landing, really rough landing. We get out for 4 to 6 hours and drive. We sleep in this quote unquote motel. It's like 3 or 4 mud huts that have like thatch roofs. Wake up the next morning. There's literally a light coming into the room that's a bullet hole. And I'm like, where are we? What are we doing? Why are we here? We get on motorcycles and go through the rainforest. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. Caleb had done like motocross, so I'm on the back, like my big heavyweight, like riding through the rainforest in Congo. We get to this river. There's these dugout canoes.
By the way, does he know where he's going? Or he's just
had been there one time before, not to Congo, but to Rwanda and Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania, like all over, but not there.
Okay. So you guys just land and he's like, hey, let's go that way.
He had talked to one person that had been on one of his trips with him from Africa, from Rwanda, that took us. And so he was acting as our translator and kind of knew where we were wanting to go. It was basically a scout trip just to see if there's any way to practically, tangibly help in any sort of way.
And to find them too.
And to find them, yeah. Because we then go across this river, which was wild because there was like water at the bottom of the canoe before we even set off. I'm like, this is sketchy. We get across and there's like crocodiles and hippos in the river. Not exactly where we were, but you can see them.
Yeah.
It's like, this is gnarly. We get out and we hike for about 30, 45 minutes. And as we're walking, we start clearing vines and thickets out of the way. And we hear drumming. And we keep walking, we hear singing. And we keep walking. And I have this vision written down in my backpack.
Yeah.
We keep walking and we come into a clearing and there's dome huts, twigs and leaves. And the first guy that acknowledges us is coughing. You can basically count his ribs. He's emaciated. Whoa. It's not like he's 90% the guy from the vision. Like he is the guy from the vision.
Yeah.
And it was the most staggering, like surreal. I felt like I got rocked in a fight. I'm spinning and I have to take a knee. And Caleb's like grabbing my trap saying, this is your vision. This is your vision. And I'm like, what? Like, can stuff like this happen in life? And does it? And you know why?
Well,
and
it did.
Yeah, it did. And so for the next 2 weeks, I was overwhelmed by real human suffering. People asking for things like land, water, food, medicine, all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. And Caleb would ask me multiple times throughout the trips, what are you going to do? I go, well, what do you mean, what am I going to do? Like, you have an organization and you've done this stuff for your life and I'm a fighter and I'm going back to fighting.
Yeah.
And he goes, you had a vision. I said, yeah, but Caleb, the visual I have. Well, first, Caleb, I've never bought land for myself in my own country. Like, how are you ever going to do it here? I turn a faucet. I don't know how to drill a well. Mm-hmm. And he would say, like, you have a vision. I go, the visual I have now is like trying to empty the ocean with an eyedropper. Like, does it count? Like, would it ever matter? Would it make a dent? Like, all that. And he said the perfect thing, kind of scolded me a little bit, where he's like, that's the wrong perspective. Every single one of those drops represents a person's name, a human heart. And some kids were literally laughing at that time. He pointed over him and like, that kid's smile. Yeah, it matters. Every single one, every single drop in the eyedropper of help you can offer somebody else, like, it matters. And that was kind of the shifting point where I said, okay, Caleb, like, I get it. That makes a lot of sense, but I just don't know what to do, where to start. Like, I just feel overwhelmed by my own smallness, how big the problem is. And he goes, where can you start? He was just asking a lot of questions. And I said, Caleb, I don't know. I feel like I need just one more thing, like some sort of confirmation. I'm in the right. Yeah. You're like, yeah. Because he goes, what more could you want?
Yeah.
And I said, something practical, something tangible, something that I could do. And on our second to last day, the Chief Leo May came up to us, and Leo May's looking at all three of us, and I'll pretend like I'm in the middle. You guys are Caleb and Colin. And he said, all of it, like, everyone else calls us the forest people. We call ourselves the forgotten.
That's it.
And boom, just light bulb moment, forgotten, still in my backpack.
Damn.
And then he goes, we don't have a voice. Can you help us have one?
Yeah.
Didn't ask Caleb or Colin, although like they were great in there, and Caleb hasn't been back and I've never stopped going. And I go, why'd you come? He goes, I came to bring you here. And I go, what? Like, you just met me.
Wow.
And so the reason I bring up that vision, I didn't think I was going to go this deep or this long into it, is because whenever I did get malaria the first time, and I lost 33 pounds in 5 days, like I came back on a second trip solo. I'm there, and like I held a young boy named Andy Bow in my hands that died of dirty water. His mom put him into my arms like right before he took his last breath. I found out it was going to be $1 for the pills that would have cured him. It would have been $3 for the one-shot cure. It's too late in the game for the pills, so he needed the shot. He was denied hospital treatment because of his tribe, like literal discrimination. We won't waste our medicine on a pygmy animal, and turn them away. And they brought everything they could. They didn't get paid money. They were either forced as literal modern day slaves or as beggars or like as second class humans. So they had a chicken, they had firewood, they had charcoal, they had eggs. I'm trying to think if they had anything else. I'm not sure. And they took that to the doorsteps of the clinic. Mm-hmm. And that's whenever his mom was told, you're too dirty to come in here the first time. So when I bought the shovel and the casket, it was $5 or $6 for the shovel. It was $30 for the casket. It just blew my mind. Well, it ripped my heart apart. And so then I came back with a focus of water. Like, let's start drilling some wells. Mm-hmm. And then on my third trip, that's when I had malaria the first time, 33 pounds, 5 days, vomiting red and green, which was blood and bile. My veins were collapsing. They couldn't get IVs in me. They were trying not just my arms, my hands, my ankles, my legs. And I had something called black water fever, which is, I think still, if we Google the fact, it's like 25 to 50% the death rate if you get it.
Wow.
And so I was like on death's door. When I finally could urinate 5 days later, it was as black.
Let's say the mortality rate for black water fever,
25 to 30%.
Yeah, the mortality rate was 25 to 30%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
So 1 in 4 chance to die, right? And I was almost in an irreversible coma. And so whenever I finally could urinate, it was as black as this microphone, right? It was like sticky black, just mind warping what is happening. But my mom, I had called her on a sat phone through the hole in the rainforest. They called it Tundu. And you'd have to wait for a satellite to pass, call. And she's like, please come home. And I was able to say, I mean, one, like I would if I need to, but first it's like, they don't know how to treat malaria back home. They've never treated it. I'd rather get treatment from the doctors that do. But the real reason was I had a vision. It came true. I met these people.
I'm supposed to be here.
I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. Something's going to happen good. And it took a long time to like get some momentum and start doing some great things. But now we have 60 people in the field that are laying the foundation of a hospital, which y'all supported. And I'm so grateful for. The nearest hospital is 2.5 hours away.
Wow.
The nearest school is 2 hours away. There's 500 to 700 children that never had access to education, but that's what they're asking for. Yeah. There's a vocational school being built. We've already opened a tailoring shop, a hairdressing salon, a barber shop, a beekeeping, like an apiary of 20 hives, trying to get it up to 100. And we're going to start a fish farm 2025. We've built homes. We've drilled 97 wells, provided clean water to more than 80,000 people. And yeah, it's been wild. Like the team is really thriving. And I think what we might be one of the best in the world at is like listening to the community, not coming in with like answers already or a blueprint, a cookie cutter solution.
Yeah.
But saying like, what do you want, need? What would you take action on? Yeah. What would you take ownership of? And what would you lead on your own? And so it almost always comes down to places in poverty. We learned you can't just drill a well without them having the land rights first. So buying the land, now it's over 3,000 acres of land. The first goal was 30 acres and 2 water wells on that. Now it's over 3,000 acres, 97 wells.
That's insane.
And some of the hardest to reach, most remote, like oftentimes places where there are no roads. So our team sometimes is like the Navy SEALs or Special Forces of well drilling.
Just make it happen.
Do you
literally think, I mean, do you think that I mean, you're on death's door. Not once, not you said it's been 5 times now.
5 times with malaria, 3 times were serious, 2 times were real serious. The last 2 times were pretty easy.
The fact that you're good at beating malaria is insane.
Beast,
but like,
dude.
I mean, are there vivid moments? Like, I know you kind of just glazed over. Like, mom's like, "Come home," and you're like, I have a vision." But like, there's got to be a lot more to the mindset of just like, no, I got a vision. It's not just like you're not using the vision. Can't be just to blame.
Yeah.
How do you actually think about the idea of like, I survived this. This is hard to survive. How do you, I mean, as soon as you start taking bullets, most people they turn around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's a few different things. I'm really stubborn, but I'm really stubborn, and I'm really passionate about it. And also, in reality, yeah, I'm an American that's had malaria 5 times. But some of our well drillers have had it 12, 13, 14 times.
But they don't have a choice.
True.
They can't just fly back to Texas and go eat barbecue and hang out. Like they
Well, I'll
can't.
do that too.
Yes.
Come get sushi and some great burgers.
But then you do go back there,
Yeah,
and
so-
you risk your life again. And I guess really like here's an interesting question.
Was enough?
Yeah, it's exactly the words verbatim. When is enough enough?
Yeah, I would say my hope, goal, plan, dream, commitment is that this thing's going to outlive and outgrow me. And so I'm not going to stop going back. Enough isn't enough. Enough is seeing them have just a fighting chance at life, that we don't lose their culture, their story, their people group. In some places in the world, they're considered, the group we're working with right now is considered an endangered people group. And they were forced to live behind a slum on less than an acre of land, more than 300 people. And they literally have not just a chief, but a king. And that king was given zero respect, his family, his people. At the land celebration, I thought we have made headways. I shouldn't say that. Like, it's been incredible to see the good work, the support of even the government, the support of the local people groups and tribes that
Are
surround
they starting
them.
to look at them differently now a little bit?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. With respect and seeing them as not a burden, but a benefit and like part of the collective. But there's still these excuses of why they're not given citizenship or representation. And it used to be they're not human. It used to be they're subhuman. It used to be like they're half man, half animal. Now they're not educated. They don't speak the governmental language of the government. None of them have a high school degree. Once they have that, so they say, okay, well, this is a long ways out, but we'll build a school.
Yeah.
And we'll start teaching multiple languages.
Yeah.
And that's what they're asking for and want. And so we're going to support that. And so I guess the thing with the commitment is, man, like they want it so bad and they're willing to work for it. If it was just them sitting on their hands and me having to force the stuff or like teach the stuff or do it for them, but all they're asking for is to be equipped with the tools, educated with the knowledge, empowered to be the change in their own community. And I can get behind that. And I've seen what they can do, like the grit of their human spirit.
I have an interesting question. Do you have any reason to believe, or has anyone ever told, like, do you think that they reached out to you somehow? Do you think somehow because I was just listening to, I think yesterday, Julian Lennon was on Rogan, and he has a somewhat similar foundation called the White Feather Foundation. Are you familiar with it at all?
Not at all.
Listen to this podcast.
I will.
So he's on tour in Australia, I think, and he's in the hotel, and the maitre d' calls upstairs to his room and goes, "Hey, there's a Aboriginal tribe downstairs with a bunch of news outlets. They want to talk to you." And he comes downstairs, and they are basically saying we need somebody to help. Now he had done like a big humanitarian style song, and they knew he was in town, so they reached out. They said in front of the cameras, "Will you help us?" And what they did is they presented him with a giant white feather. And I can't remember what animal it was, but a giant white feather. Now, here's what's interesting about this. And he was never it's not that he wasn't charitable, but that wasn't his like background, right? He tells a story that before his father, John Lennon, passed, he said, "If anything ever happens to me, the way I will let you know that I'm still watching you is I will present myself in the form of a giant white feather."
Wow.
Wild.
And
It was wild.
and because that's on my mind right now,
Yeah.
I just, I mean, obviously I believe in fate, I believe in
Yeah.
destiny, but like, had they come with a rhino tusk, he might not have done it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And of all the things you can present a stranger, a white feather that nobody else would have known, it just makes me think, like, how do you see, like, are these guys reaching out to you? Was it always meant to be? It's it's a very interesting thought. So I'm curious.
It's interesting to think of it this way, because
I'm sure they're praying, somebody come and help us.
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. Most of the things they're praying and calling out for are just things we take for granted, right? Like their answered prayers are like everyday luxury, right? Like, or everyday, like, whatever that we take for granted. So not even a luxury. It's an afterthought. But the thing about the vision, if I would have taken the fight, which was a dream fight, like, I wouldn't have gone. Or if I would have delayed it, if I wouldn't have let this guy talk me into going and him take me at that time to that community, then it wouldn't have been the full vision, right? It would have been him at that time walking up just like the guy in the vision walked up, and me seeing him coughing right at that moment. It would have been a little different. And I couldn't have said like 100% of the vision came true.
Yeah.
And so I could have doubted it. But because it was identical, and like, now there's no doubt in my mind. Like, now I literally have this firm resolution in my spirit, like, not a damn chance are we going to stop this. And so there's been times that things have come up. Like, I didn't know how to fundraise.
Yeah.
And all I did was would either fight win or go on Rogan's or tell people the story. And then I wouldn't even ask, and things kept happening. And so there's been times, but now it's like, okay, well, how do you level this up? Because there's actually more need. And really what the goal is, yes, for the Pygmy people, my second family, who I love and adore, but how can we do something that's the original vision, their vision? So like, I had a vision that got me to their vision, which is pretty cool. But their vision is like let's help usher in a new wave of charity done right, because it's being done so wrong in so many different aspects. There's over 230,000 broken water wells in Africa right now. That's billions of wasted charitable dollars. The normal model or method, I call it the show up, blow out technique. Announce your arrival with a parade, throw a party, get your pictures, peace out, and then on the back end, pretend like it's always working and in existence. Whenever it's going to need maintenance, it has to be a local solution to a local problem. It has to be locally available, locally affordable. It has to. In the traditional model, the way most people are doing it, like the vast majority, is push people out of the way, not physically, but like, you can at least visualize, like, put them on the bench or on the sidelines or in the bleachers. We come in and do it for you because you can't do it for yourself. And then, like, they're not active in their own rescue or progress or, and so it's been tough to see that. But what if on a micro scale, in one community at a time, you can solve those problems? Because people are like, well, what's your one thing? And you should just be the Pygmy water guy. And that makes sense. But at the same time, in a fight, and they named it Fight for the Forgotten, by the way, like us together, because I was wrestling 1, 2, 3 of them at a time, right? And then they told me the Forgotten thing, and they're like, could we do something called Fight for the Forgotten? I'm like, that's beautiful, let's do it. So it's just perfect. But as a fighter, especially in today's age, right, you have to be a well-rounded fighter. You can't be a one-trick pony. You can't just have one move. You can't just have one standing takedown and on the ground. Like, you have to have a well-rounded approach, balanced offense, defense, like everything, and have a firm foundation in a lot of things. So as an organization in a community, can we be well-rounded, helping them with land rights, drilling the water wells, but teaching them how to do it, starting a farm, bringing support around that, help them build their own better houses, and then start a healthcare facility that's supported locally to where they can have safe births. And then the school, education, them owning it for themselves. So anyways, I guess we're doing that now, deepening the impact. Like, we want to go a mile deep before we go a mile wide.
So you're clearly doing way more than you even ever set out to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I
there's
feel
challenges.
like there's a question I always ask at this point, and I feel like this is the most relevant time, and I'll get the best answer I've gotten thus far, which is, if I put a magic lantern on this table and you could rub it and have anything you want, what does 10 years from now look like for Fight for the Forgotten, for this tribe?
10 years from now, I would love it to be the whole community development approach, or holistic. Like, we build whole communities in 10 different communities at least. And it's going to take some time, but if we can scale it, grow it, replicate it to where one does it really well, that's what we're doing now. We're starting in a second community next year.
In the same area? Or
It's a little bit different area, but that community has come up to our current community that's much further ahead than they are. It's to be inspired and to
but in
learn
the same
and
part of
grow.
the world.
Same part of the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we're going to do 2 in Uganda. Next year we might start in Rwanda or Burundi. I've already been to Rwanda last year. My COO has been to Burundi. We want to get back into DRC. We're there, but it's hard to do infrastructure there in Congo because of war. But we want to kind of encircle it to where, like, Central African Republic above it, Gabon, and Cameroon around it. And anyways, I think in 10 years, we have a proven model, method, helping pioneer a better way that open sources its successes and challenges and lets the communities replicate it that are surrounding them. We already have people coming to our community. How are y'all doing this? How can we do it?
Sick.
And we're like, this is kind of we're an open book. Like,
And speaking of how can you do it, how can people listening at home, how can they get involved? How can they donate? How can they, we're super, super grateful to actually have been a part of the last, fundraising effort. And to hear, I think yesterday you texted me and said, yo, we crushed a fucking $1 million. Like, that makes sense. And especially now after hearing all of it, because I knew what it was, but I never sat down and listened to it for an hour. You know what I mean? So, but I'm sure that people at home will be inspired by this and want to help. So how do they get in touch with you? What do they do?
Yeah, an easy way is
it looks like you put something up on the TV
nice.
over
Look,
here.
Fight for the Forgotten. The easiest way is fightfortheforgotten.org or FFTF.org, and people can join our fight club. Okay. And the fight club is going to be our monthly giving club. That's what we really want to build out in 2025. I haven't done the best job at asking, so normally it's been one-time donors.
Well, I'll ask. Hey, everybody out there, please fucking help, huh?
Yeah. Fight club. Join our fight club, please. Maybe the first rule of fight club is you do talk about fight club. Let people know of a nonprofit you believe in.
Hell yeah.
And second is, like, give $25 or more a month if you can. If it's $5, that's incredible. That's generous. That's awesome. But if we can do $25 a month and build that up to 1,000, 10,000 people one day, then we can plan, budget, scale, grow, replicate. And then we do have this $1 million matching gift. We have 2 matching donors. So anyone that donates, it's not going to be just, if you gave once and it was just if it was $25, it would become not 50, it would become 75.
Wow. Damn.
And so your dollar will be multiplied. If it's $100, it's $300. If it's $10, it's $30. And so, because y'all were part of our first event, even though we've been in existence 13 years. We hit that $1 million matching gift, which was our first time to ever have that. And because of that, they've committed 1.5 million next year.
Wow.
So which is awesome, but I don't want to miscommunicate, meaning we got it. We don't get it until we raise it.
Yeah.
So we need an army, a tribe of a community of support so that we hit that, and that 1.5 would become 3 million.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
dude, I can't tell you
Thanks,
how grateful we are to have you on today. And not just to help sort of spread the word, but thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for telling, like, for being real, because I think that this show is about showing people at home that everyone that they look up to we're just another dude. We're just regular people. It's just the mindset, can allow for something bigger and better. And the mindset of putting others first and of being of service. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the man, dude.
I appreciate it.
Crushing it.
If there was one thing I was going to say walking in here that I didn't even say at all, there was 2 suicide attempts, 2 times at treatment, and like now because of the purpose, I feel like there's not a damn chance I'm going out that way.
Fuck yeah, that's
like
right.
I'm here to stay.
That's right.
And
I fucking love it.
Bring the stuff into existence, and y'all's encouragement means the world to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Well, I don't think we can wrap up any better than that line. So thank you for being here.
Fuck
Yeah,
yes.
for sure. Love you guys.
Love you. That's a wrap on today's episode. Hit subscribe now if you want to follow along. We have some awesome guests lined up that we sit down with. Make sure you follow the Not a Damn Chance podcast on socials at NADC Podcast. We'll see you next week.